Hello all, this is Six Path Weeb here, bringing you another intriguing fanfic discussion. Today's topic is, what if female Naruto could see ghosts? Disclaimer, the content on this channel is for entertainment and discussion purposes only. I do not own any of the anime footage used in my videos. All rights and credits go to their respective creators and copyright holders. Now, let's get started. The village of Konoha was renowned for upholding the will of fire and was often regarded as a formidable village, having not only survived but triumphed in both shinobi wars. Its inhabitants were generally known for their kindness and compassion, except towards one individual, Naruto Uzumaki. If someone were to ask Naruto her opinion of the villagers, the young blonde would likely respond that not everything is as it seems, or she might remark that even the most beautiful gardens have their weeds. Yet, no one ever sought her perspective. If the villagers were asked about the girl, they would most likely speak ill of her or spread rumors. However, if you asked the Hokage or the owner of the local ramen shop, they would tell you that Naruto was highly intelligent, albeit fond of pulling pranks on the villagers. What they wouldn't reveal is the fact that Naruto harbored the Kyuubi within her, or how she often wore a calculating expression, as though she were analyzing her chances in a battle or discerning someone's true intentions. They also wouldn't mention that at times, she appeared lost in thought or seemed to be speaking to herself, which they assumed was her communing with the Kyuubi. What none of the villagers knew was that the 12-year-old girl could see ghosts, spirits that would either try to amuse her or, at the very least, provide her with the information she needed, often revealing the hidden motives of those around her. Naruto never fully understood why these spirits helped her, but she didn't complain or act ungrateful. To her, they were friends, always willing to listen to her vent about her teammates and her sensei, especially when he neglected to train her. It was a wonder that she had become a skilled ninja or had even passed the Genin test. She was grateful that the spirits had aided her during training and had assisted her during exams. Her favorite spirit was that of the fourth Hokage, who had always been there for her. The fourth often looked at her with guilt, which Naruto attributed to the fact that he had sealed the Kyuubi within her. She didn't hold it against him, though, and was grateful that he didn't haunt her but instead spent most of his time near the third Hokage, occasionally training with her. She understood why he might feel remorse. It was easier to burden an orphan than a child with parents who would likely have abandoned their child. Despite the advantages of seeing spirits, there were, unfortunately, some drawbacks. Many ghosts lingered because they wished to see their families again, as in the case of the Uchiha clan, whom Naruto would describe as having inflated egos. Others couldn't move on because their loved ones hadn't, such as Obito Uchiha, who, despite his tragic circumstances, had a surprisingly light-hearted demeanor. The most sorrowful aspect of encountering these spirits was when they had died under tragic circumstances and couldn't accept their fate, or when they wished to protect something they held dear. Some spirits clung to those they had known in life, while others wished to haunt them. Yes, seeing ghosts was both a gift and a curse. This was especially true now, as Naruto looked upon the red-haired boy and his frightened teammates. If she were anyone else, she might have wondered why they seemed so afraid, but the numerous spirits surrounding her told her everything she needed to know. As so many, Naruto whispered aloud, her voice trembling. Before her stood over 200 ghosts, most glaring at the redhead with anger and hatred, while others gazed at her with curiosity. Why were there so many spirits accompanying him? The pink-haired girl standing next to her teammate looked at Naruto in confusion. She didn't understand what Naruto meant by so many. From her perspective, only a few people were present: Konohamaru, Sasuke, herself, a blonde kunoichi from Suna, a shinobi with painted features, and the redhead, Gaara, who was eyeing Naruto with interest. Gaara, Kankuro stammered, his earlier bravado fading as he glanced nervously at his sibling. Gaara, no longer scowling, appeared frightened, a reaction Naruto found unsurprising given the sheer number of spirits. Losing control in a fight. How disgraceful, Gaara remarked, crossing his arms as he addressed his teammates. Do you even understand why we came to Konoha? Gaara, listen, they started it, and, Kankuro began, offering what Naruto perceived as a feeble excuse. Be quiet, or I'll kill you, Gaara interrupted. Both his teammates and the Konoha shinobi knew he was serious. You would even kill your own family, just like the monster you are. One of the spirits shouted angrily at Gaara. Naruto flinched at the venom in the ghost's words, the term monster echoing the cruel names the villagers had once hurled at her. Why would you say such a thing? Naruto spoke up, addressing the spirit beside Gaara. Yet it was Gaara who responded. Because, Gaara began, his tone icy, then I would be rid of a headache. Besides, what else? Naruto cut him off, struggling to control her temper. I am not speaking to you, Naruto snapped, her tone sharp. I understand he's giving you a headache, but if you're going to issue threats, do it at the hotel, not here. This is between the three of you, not the rest of us. What? Kankuro and Temari exclaimed in unison, astonished by her audacity to confront their brother so openly. Did she not realize what could happen to her? Their eyes darted to Gaara, who stood in stunned silence, his gaze fixed on the blonde girl. I speak nothing but the truth, milady. He killed me for no reason, just as he has killed countless others, even his own mother. If that doesn't define a monster, then I don't know what does. The ghostly woman cried, pointing to the apparition beside Gaara. Naruto shifted her attention to the ghost standing to Gaara's right. Amidst the spectral figures surrounding her, this particular one had gone unnoticed until now. Upon closer inspection, she observed that this ghost did not harbor hatred or anger toward Gaara, only a deep, heart-wrenching sadness. You can see me? The ghost asked, her voice filled with cautious hope. Hesitating slightly, Naruto nodded, and the ghost's face broke into a warm smile. Her gaze softened as she looked at her son, then back at Naruto, allowing her eyes to linger on the three distinctive scars marking the young Kunoichi's cheeks. My son was not always like this, the ghost said, her smile fading into sorrow. Once, he was different, kinder, gentler. I only wish he could return to that, but I fear he may never be the same. Her eyes brightened suddenly as she looked back at Naruto, her tone urgent. But you can help him, milady. I beg you, show him that he is wrong. Please, help me. Naruto's heart softened at the woman's plea. She glanced at Gaara once more, his cold demeanor and hardened eyes filling her with doubt. Could she really make a difference? But nothing was impossible, and if aiding the ghost meant helping her move on, she had to try. Yet, deep down, she questioned if she was truly capable of such a task. What is the name of your blonde teammate? Gaara's sudden question pulled her from her thoughts. Naruto narrowed her eyes and responded coolly, I'm standing right here, you know. And to answer your question, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. She then offered him a smile and added, it's a pleasure to meet you, Gaara. I hope we can be friends. The room fell silent as everyone stared at her as if she had lost her mind. Perhaps she had, but Naruto felt she had made the right choice. The radiant expression on the ghost's face confirmed that. It had been a week since Naruto last encountered Gaara and his team, along with the enigmatic aura that seemed to accompany him. Despite her best efforts to devise a solution for aiding the red-haired boy, nothing seemed to yield any meaningful results. Every idea she considered felt inauthentic, as though she were pretending to be someone she was not. She had no desire to trail after him or offer insincere praise, especially given how little she truly knew about him. More than anything, she feared resembling one of those obsessive admirers. Such behavior, in her eyes, was a disgrace to Kunoichi everywhere. Compounding her frustrations, the Yondaime Hokage had been urging her to intensify her training for the upcoming Chunin exams. It appeared that Kakashi had nominated her and her team, but in typical fashion, her sensei had failed to inform them until the 11th hour. As she gazed at her reflection, Naruto couldn't help but question whether it was wise to deviate from her usual attire. The orange jumpsuit had become her signature look, yet Minato, whom she affectionately referred to as sensei, had strongly suggested she wear something different for the occasion. She won't admit this to the deceased Hokage, but she did like the outfit that she wore. Wearing the red kimono blouse with a dark-colored orange obi and the dark shirt under her kimono as well as the stockings seemed more comfortable to wear than that of the jumpsuit. It also didn't help that the Hokage told her that she looked like her mother when she wore that outfit. You are going to be late for the Chunin exams if you don't go now. Minato pointed out to the blonde girl. The blue-eyed girl sighed at her sensei and answered, I have a bad feeling about this examination. I see, but what can you do, Naruto-chan? Your teammates would be very disappointed with you if you don't come. Disappointed? Furious is the better word to use, sensei. Have you seen how violent Sakura can be? Or how big an ego Sasuke has? The Yondaime chuckled uneasily at her words but didn't disagree with what she said about her teammates. She sighed at the Hokage and apologized to him about her tone. She seriously was under a lot of stress and her teammates weren't helping her either. I am going, Naruto informed the ghost. It became her habit to tell the ghosts that visited her when she leaves. I am coming with you, Minato said. You would at least need some help during the first part of the Chunin exams. The blonde-haired girl raised her eyebrows at him but didn't dare question the Hokage. If there was one thing she learned from hanging around ghosts, it was that when they offer her help it meant that a challenge was coming or they wanted something in return. With the Hokage, it always meant the first. All right, but I can't speak to you with my teammates around. Naruto informed him. Don't want them to think anything bad of me. He raised his eyebrows at her in disbelief and the blonde-haired girl just simply gave a shrug as a response. He chuckled as they made their way through the door and headed to meet up with Sasuke and Sakura. Much to Naruto's amusement, her teammates did not seem to notice the change of attire. Frankly, the blue-eyed girl knew that the only way that it would ever get Sakura's attention if she simply transformed to Sasuke or to do something equally as amusing or embarrassing. Oh well, it wasn't like she wanted her to recognize her. Sasuke, on the other hand, had noticed the change but just did not say anything because he was brooding. She could almost sworn that she had seen him blush, but it must have been her imagination. She sighed as they walked towards the room where they were supposed to turn their applications in. There had been a test on the second floor where people were tricked into thinking a different room was the right one and Sasuke nearly spilled the beans but hadn't due to her suggestions. That had been a close one. You would had more competitors if you hadn't told him not to do it, Minato said as he decided to stand beside Fugaku Uchiha. The Uchiha head looked ready to disagree with the Yondaime but decided against it, knowing that his son would have done it. Naruto chuckled at her sensei and Fugaku. The two of them don't get along, but yet for some strange reason those two are still friends. Their behavior towards each other reminded her of another pair, but for a life of hers, she couldn't think whose. Her train of thought was broken as they walked through a large arena-like room that seemed oddly misplaced in the academy. "Hey, guy with dark eyes!" a loud voice yelled as they reached the center of the room. Looking up, Naruto saw a boy wearing a repulsive green spandex jumpsuit standing on the balcony that surrounded the room. A mini guy. Minato and the rest of the Uchiha clan yelled in horror. The blonde-haired girl tilted her head at them and looked at them in confusion, not understanding why they seemed so fearful. Who was this guy? And why were they seem so fearful at the fact that this guy was a mini version of him? It made her wonder what else the ghosts are afraid of. "What is it?" Sasuke asked, looking at the spandex-wearing boy in annoyance. "Will you fight me right here?" The blue-eyed girl looked at the older boy in curiosity and then with griminess before looking at her teammate to see what he planned to do. He is an idiot, thought Naruto in disbelief, knowing now what he planned to do. They are not supposed to get into a fight during the Chunin exams. Any person with common sense will know that. A fight right now? Yes. Son, you can't get into a fight right now. Not when you are about to enter the Chunin exams, Mikoto yelled at her son's ear, forgetting that her son couldn't hear her. She looked at Naruto for help to convince her son not to do something so reckless. "My name is Rock Lee." Lee introduced himself as he did a front flip off of the balcony and landed gracefully. When you want to learn a person's name, you introduce yourself first, right? "Uchiha Sasuke." Scoffed Sasuke. "Hey, so you know? I want to fight you," Lee said as he did into a taijutsu stance. "I want to test my techniques against the offspring of the genius ninja clan." "You hear that, Namikaze? He called my clan a genius," Fugaku said in glee. Minato's sweat dropped at this change of behavior while Mikoto simply chuckled at her husband's enthusiasm. The blue-eyed girl sighed and said, "Sasuke, normally I am all for it for you get into a fight, but..." She nodded her head at Lee. "I don't think it is the time for you to get into a fight, especially when the Chunin exams do not allow competitors to fight outside of the exams. You can get us disqualified. We also got 30 minutes as well," Sakura added. "Challenging me knowing the Uchiha name?" Sasuke said, not paying attention to Naruto's warning and Sakura. "Frankly, you are a fool." "You tell him," Fugaku said, encouraging his son to continue on with the insults. The blonde-haired girl scoffed at his words. Naruto had also paid attention to Lee and can already tell the outcome of this battle. The stance that he used and the speed that he had done to be in his taijutsu stance told her how outclassed Sasuke was. "You got something to say, dope?" Sasuke growled. "Yes, milady, do you have something to say?" Fugaku growled at the girl. Normally he got along with the girl just fine, as she had been trying to help his son with his other son. Naruto smiled sweetly at him and answered, "Yes, you are the fool, not him." He glared at her, but the blonde didn't stop there. "Think carefully, why would he done such a thing? Why would he go to great lengths to do something as risky as this? I doubt someone would do that unless they are confident to win, and look at his fighting stance and compare it to yours." Minato looked at his daughter in proudness and pride. He was happy to see that she had taken his words of wisdom and used it for her teammates. He honestly doubt that this time her words will work on him. The mini guy had insulted the boy's family. "So what? I would be the one to be disqualified, not you guys." The blonde-haired girl twitched her eyebrows at him and said, "I rather prefer it if we are all in there like a team." "He insulted my clan." Thick brows must learn what this name means. Please, Lee said, not helping Naruto with what he just elder boy, then proceeded to make a come hither motion with his hand. The blue-eyed girl stomped her foot at them and the whole building started to shake. Sasuke and Sakura looked at her in shock, both of them knowing that the blonde only do that when she is losing control her temper. Which almost rarely happens. You are testing my patience, Sasuke. He may have insulted your clan, but that does not mean you pick a fight with him. Naruto growled. She then sighed and said, however, you seemed really stubborn to continue this fight, so fine, you do the fight, but I want this fight over in 5 minutes, if not I am going to personally finish it for you. Sasuke nodded numbly while Sakura looked at her teammate in anger for threatening the Uchiha heir. How dare she threaten Sasuke-kun? He could beat her up less than 10 minutes, and the same goes for the thick brow boy. Unbeknownst to Naruto and her companions, Gaara was standing on the balcony watching them. His eyes gleamed in excitement at the shockwaves that Naruto had produced. Karura frowned at the crazed look on her youngest son's face. She knew that look all too well in his face, but she wasn't worried about him killing the girl. She didn't know why, but something told her that it would be hard for him to do such a thing to her. Why waste your time with the monster? He killed all of us, there is no redemption for him. He won't stop killing innocent people, not until he is dead. One of Gaara's victims asked her. The brunette woman narrowed her eyes and boldly said. He will stop it. It is my husband and Suna's fault that he is this way. Not once had you shown him any kindness and treated him with hate. She then added to them. And his change will be from Naruto. The ghost scoffed at her words and Karura frowned. She looked down to see Naruto and silently prayed that what she has just said was right. She didn't want to see her child like this. I am really sorry about my son. Mikado apologized to Naruto as her son got beaten up by Lee. The blonde was sure that the woman would have blushed if it weren't for the fact that she was dead. If this was a mission, your son could have gotten them killed because he did not listen to the words of his teammates. Minato informed Fugaku, who was watching the match between his son and Lee with avid interest. Teamwork is not that important. The rest of the Uchiha clan agreed with Fugaku, all except Mikado. The Uchiha matron shook her head in disapproval at her husband's words while Naruto and Minato gave him a heated look. Now, the blonde-haired girl knew where Sasuke got his lack of teamwork and his ego from. Honestly, the boy looks more like his mother but acted more like his father. She wondered, whom does Itachi act like? Hopefully like his mother. Sasuke-kun, Sakura yelled, drawing the ghost's and Naruto's attention back to Sasuke. The blonde shook her head at the sight of Sasuke falling down to the ground before looking at the clock to see how many more minutes she had before she had to finish the fight for him. 4 more minutes to go before she does her job. She then looked around the area to see if they were being watched. Her eyes widened when she saw Gaara and the ghosts behind him. She gave him a small smile, causing him to frown. She gave him a small wave and gestured for him to come down, but his response from her was a nod as a greeting before he left her and Sakura to watch the match. Anything going on between the two of you? Minato asked, glaring at the retreating form of Gaara. The blonde-haired girl frowned and then shook her head at her teacher in confusion. Why would there be anything going on between them? They were nothing but acquaintance, but Naruto hoped to change that. She needed to help him and being friends with him was the only way. How could this happen? Sasuke-kun is unbeatable, Sakura said, looking at Sasuke and Lee in confusion and anger. He must be cheating. Why do you say such a thing, Sakura? Naruto asked. She watched in boredom as Lee wrapped Sasuke with his bandages. Right from the beginning, she knew the outcome of this match. Because Sasuke-kun is unbeatable. The blue-eyed girl frowned at her teammate's response and then gave her teammate a dark look. What she was about to say would get Sakura angry, but it was time she tell her the harsh reality. No one is unbeatable, not even Sasuke. He is a rookie, Sakura, not a jounin. It is expected that he would lose to someone that has more experience. Not only that, Sasuke may be the rookie of the year, but I bet you that compared to some of the competitors here, he is easy for them to kill or defeat, said Naruto. How dare you say that about Sasuke-kun, Sakura said. She then raised her hand and was about to slap the girl when Naruto took her arm and put it behind her back. I am your teammate Sakura, but even I have a limit to my patience, whispered Naruto coldly in her ear. Raise your hand at me again and I will break your arm, got it? The pinkette fearfully nodded at her teammate and the blonde nodded and then released her arm. Sakura couldn't help but stare at her teammate in fear. That was the first time that Naruto had ever done such a thing to her. She had seen her do it to Ino but never to her. She must have really pissed her off. It was in that moment a pink, paper, windmill flew in between the two soaring ninja, pinning the bindings against the wall. That is enough, Lee. Naruto and Sakura turned around and were shocked to see a huge turtle in front of them, wearing a Konoha headband around his neck. Rock Lee changed his direction, controlling his fall so that he fell to the floor immediately. He twirled in the air, holding onto the loose binding until he landed. While Sakura called out Sasuke's name as he continued to fall down to the ground. The pink-haired girl barely reached to him on time but was still able to catch him. She glanced at her blonde-haired teammate, who simply shook her head at Sasuke before walking towards them with great reluctance. She scowled at her teammate's behavior. "Are you alright, Sasuke-kun?" Sakura asked. The blonde-haired girl was the one to answer the question. "He isn't injured, but his pride must have gone real down for being beaten by Lee-san," she answered, smiling at her teammate. "Now what did we learn today?" "Shut up, dope." The blue-eyed girl shook her head at his threat and continued to talk. "I did warn you that you were going to be beaten, but you didn't listen to me, so it is only fair that I say, I told you so." "Naruto Baka, stop talking," Sakura yelled. Naruto shook her head at her teammate and said, "I will not stop talking because Sakura, he needs to learn the hard cold truth that he isn't better than anyone. I am not going to be like you and tell him that he is so cool and strong. I am going to tell him the harsh reality that is he isn't the strongest Genin in this whole village. There are many Genin stronger than him." "Naruto. She is right. Your son deserves to know the hard cold truth," Minato said to his friend. "Someone has to tell him," Mikoto agreed as she looked at her son in worry. "Oh, by the way, is it possible for a turtle to become a ninja?" asked Naruto, looking at the turtle in front of them with curiosity. Sakura looked at her in disbelief and yelled, "How would I know?" "No, Naruto-chan, a turtle summon cannot become a ninja," Minato answered, smiling in amusement at his child's question. "You think you can get away with an excuse like that? You already know what it means for a shinobi to reveal his special techniques." The turtle yelled at the terrified Lee. "Yes," screamed Lee. "Are you prepared to pay?" the turtle asked. Lee reluctantly nodded his head and hunched his back before saying, "Yes." "Then here comes Guy-sensei," the turtle yelled as he disappeared in a cloud of smoke, revealing the freakiest thing Konoha had to offer. "Mito Guy." "Oh no, please God, not him," the ghosts yelled. It had never been so amusing for Naruto to see the panic looks on all the ghosts' face, including the rigid Fugaku Uchiha, who looked ready to run away. "Geez. You guys are the epitome of youth," Guy yelled. Naruto's face turned pale as she noticed the pronounced feature on his face and the clothes that he was wearing. "He has got even thicker eyebrows," yelled Sakura, voicing out loud her teammates' thoughts. "That isn't the bad part," Minato said, looking at Guy in weariness. "The bad part is the fact that he always talked about youth or his insane training methods." The rest of the ghosts nodded in agreement with him, and Naruto looked torn from laughing at their expression or asking him about the insane training methods. "Did I mention that I had never seen eyebrows like them?" Naruto asked her teammates. They shook their head and added their own comments about Guy and Lee's eyebrows. She smiled in relief at the fact that she wasn't the only one that found it disturbing. "Hey! Stop insulting Guy-sensei. Well, excuse me for not knowing how to react. I mean, first it was you, then that summoned turtle, and now him. Do we attract weirdos or what?" said Naruto, trying her best not to shout at Lee for saying that to them. "What did you say?" "Lee," Guy said, waving his hands to his student to come closer. "Oh yes?" Lee asked, going closer to his sensei. "You fool." Guy slammed his fist into Lee's face, sending him to the ground, causing all three genins to gawk in shock. Naruto looked at the ghosts, who simply shook their head as if it was a normal thing, and it might be if they had been seen them around a few times. You are. Sensei." Both student and teacher had tears in their eyes. "Sensei. I. That is enough, Lee, you don't need to say it." "Guy-sensei." "Lee." "Guy-sensei." Both ninja hugged each other, making Team 7 gape and the ghosts to turn even paler if possible at the sight in front of them. That is so wrong in so many levels, thought Naruto, paling at the sight in front of them. If she had thought the hugging was worse, then it became even worse when she saw the sunset jutsu. She tried dispelling it, but to her horror it didn't work. "Sakura, do me a favor." "What?" asked Sakura. "If it doesn't end in the next 10 minutes, please kill me." The pink-haired girl nodded and said, "All right, but only if you do the same for me." Naruto nodded in agreement and was grateful that her teammate would do something as kind as that. She even has limits on what was considered to be affectionate, but the sight in front of her was so wrong and in so many levels. "You think it is going to end any time soon?" Sakura asked, looking at the clock. Naruto frowned and then asked, "Why are we even still here? Let us go when we have the chance." The other two members of Team 7 nodded in agreement and walked as quietly as they could to the stairs but were stopped by Guy. How he came from the other side of the room to the stairs so fast she didn't know. But she did know if they didn't get out of there soon, she will get sick. "How is Kakashi-sensei doing?" Guy asked. The blonde frowned before sighing at the fact that their sensei knows this weirdo as well. Was it too much to ask for a day without weirdos? Well, to be fair, she was one as well, but not by choice. "You know Kakashi?" Sasuke asked. "How can he not? That man always challenges him," Minato said, smiling at them. "Their challenges are quite insane if I do say so myself." "You got to be kidding me." Naruto muttered as Guy began to tell them about how they're eternal rivals and how much stronger he was than Kakashi. The blonde didn't doubt the man, but she did doubt about how sane he was. Still, she had never been more glad to be in Kakashi's team till now. She shuddered at the thought of her sensei being like Guy, or even worse if that was possible. Thank Kami for giving her Kakashi and not Guy. It was another 10 minutes before they were finally allowed to go to the classroom to do the exam. She was very thankful that they reached 5 minutes before the exam, as being late was not something she liked or patient about. Naruto was surprised to see Kakashi standing in front of the classroom where the first exam was taking place. She grinned at the sight of Obito Uchiha, who gave her a wave. "Long time no see, Naruto-chan," Obito said, grinning at her. "And here I was thinking that you would never want to see me again." She silently made hand signs to tell him that it was his fault for not seeing her and not the other way around. He pouted at her and told her that he had been too busy keeping an eye on Kakashi. Still no excuse not to see Naruto. Minato informed his student. "Now we can properly take the exam," Kakashi said, returning her attention back to him. "What do you mean?" asked Sakura. "Probably means that this exam is meant to be taken by teams of 3. Naruto answered, smiling at her teacher. "But he said taking the test was an individual choice." "You lied to us?" Sakura accused their sensei. "Probably didn't tell you because he was very lazy or too busy reading those books of his," Obito assured the girl. Naruto arched her eyebrows at him and he was reminded again that he was dead. Kakashi then went on to explaining why he didn't tell her the truth, and Naruto was glad that he didn't tell her because of the reasons that Obito suggested. Seriously, reading those books of his would make him forget to tell the girl. The boy got to think of better reasons. None of them noticed that a mysterious figure in the shadows that was watching Naruto with interest, or the gleaming look on his eyes as he watched them enter. No, they had never realized that the moment that they entered the doors their lives would change, and not for the better. When they entered the classroom, Naruto couldn't help but felt overwhelmed. The sheer numbers of shinobis were definitely impressive. There must be over 100 people in here. Naruto glanced at Minato to see his reaction about the number. The surprised look on his face told her that this number of genins was not one that he had expected as well. She frowned and wondered what was the most common number that the Chunin exams had. "What is this?" Sakura asked after she had gotten over her shock. The blue-eyed girl blinked her eyes at her teammate and answered slowly, "They are genins that are also taking the Chunin exams, and this is where we take the first exam." Sakura flushed in embarrassment at her teammate's words and angrily said, "I know that, Baka." "Then why do you ask such a foolish question?" Mikoto asked, looking at the girl in annoyance. She was so thankful that her son did not have any feelings for the pink-haired girl in front of her, because if he did, she would never ever want to talk to him again. "Really?" asked Naruto in mock surprise. She suddenly stiffened as she felt a familiar presence approaching her team. Why was she put in the same team as Sasuke? Oh yes, apparently she was the only one in the whole class that was balanced. 1, 2, 3, Naruto thought as she went to stand beside Sakura. There was no way in hell that she would stand beside the raven-haired teen when his fangirls were here, excluding Sakura, but she had no choice but to get along with the pink-haired girl. "Sasuke-kun. You are late," Ino yelled as she jumped onto Sasuke's back. The raven-haired teen looked at Naruto for help, but the blonde-haired teen simply chuckled at him before shaking her head at him. He scowled at her, causing her grin to widen. "I haven't seen you for a while, so I have been waiting in excitement," Ino said, smiling at Sasuke. The raven-haired teen looked at Naruto for help, but sadly for him, the blue-eyed teen felt like he needed to learn a lesson. "Ino, I don't think Sasuke would mind if you give him a more tight hug," Naruto said, smiling evilly at her teammate. Sasuke looked at her in horror, but she simply mouthed to him that he had it coming for not listening to her. "Naruto, do not encourage Ino, pig," Sakura yelled at her teammate before glaring at her ex-best friend. She then yelled at Ino, "And get away from Sasuke-kun. Ino pig. Why if it isn't Sakura, Ino said, scowling at her ex-best friend. Big ugly forehead as usual. Are they always like this? Minato asked as Naruto looked at the two girls in amusement and boredom. The preteen nodded at him and his frown deepened at her. He couldn't help but be disappointed at how the two girls act to each other. This was not the way a kunoichi act. Are you guys taking this stupid test too? Don't die, Shikamaru said as he walked up to them alongside Choji, who was eating a bag of chips. Naruto could not remember a day when the Akimichi heir didn't have a bag of chips in his hand. Still being lazy, I see, said Naruto with a small smile. I honestly didn't expect you to take this test, I thought it might be too troublesome for you. Which makes me ask what made you come here. Troublesome women. I see your mother nagged you in to take the Chunin exams and Ino must have been annoying you to do it because she heard it from Sakura that our team was going to do it as well, Naruto said, grinning at him. The two males nodded at her and the blonde sighed and said in pity, goodness knows, how you survived Ino. You don't know the half of it, Shikamaru said. I can feel your pain, Naruto said, smiling at the two males as she silently pointed to Sakura, which unnoticed by the said pink-haired girl. Ino glared at them for what they had implied but that didn't faze them, all three of them were used to her glares. Naruto more so than Choji and Shikamaru as the platinum blonde girl always glared at her when she spent time with Sasuke. What did you say, Pudgy? Ino yelled. The blue-eyed girl eyes darkened at Ino's words and said in coldness, Ino, if you call me Pudgy again, I will have no problem sending you to the hospital again. Also, I should remind you that I am not fat but curvy unlike you. What the hell did you just said? Ino yelled. And you are Pudgy, don't convince yourself otherwise. Naruto is not Pudgy. All the ghost yelled. Minato huffed at the platinum blonde girl's words while Mikoto glared at the girl for saying such things to Naruto. She did not like this girl behavior one bit. Sasuke and the rest of the boys couldn't help but feel awkward at the situation in front of them while Sakura couldn't help but shake her head at her rival denial of Naruto's body. Everyone that sees Naruto knows that the girl is well developed for her age, even Sakura could see it and she always wanted to deny anything good about Naruto. You heard me, Naruto said, looking at her in boredom. And besides I'm well developed not fat and also, you are in diet. What type of kunoichi does that to herself? At least I know that I can get a boy, Ino spat. Unfortunately, Naruto seemed to be having a lot of boys following her, Minato said as he remembered the boys that he had seen that always seemed to be following his little girl. What happened with the Kazekage-san was proof of how many boys found his daughter attractive. So what? Naruto said, shrugging her shoulders. I don't care if a boy looks at me or not. And besides I would rather be a good kunoichi than be boy crazy. We are not boy crazy. Sakura and Ino yelled. The blonde girl chuckled and said, did I say you were? I simply said that I would rather be a good kunoichi than be boy crazy, I didn't say you guys were. Sasuke bowed his head down at the fact that Naruto got them to confess that they were boy crazy. He was glad to know that he would never have to worry of the blonde stalking him, but it would be nice if the girl returned his feelings towards her. Yahoo! Found you! A rather loud voice yelled. Naruto's attention turned to an approaching Kiba Inuzuka, who was grinning. His teammates, Shino Aburame and Hinata Hyuga were close behind. Hello! Hinata greeted, smiling nervously at them. She looked at Naruto, who gave her a grin causing the Hyuga-era smile slightly bigger. Well, everyone is assembled, Kiba said. Nice to see you too, Kiba, Naruto said. The feral boy grinned at her and eyed her up and down before whistling at her, causing the blonde to roll her eyes at him. Looking hot as usual, Naruto. Threw hotter in that outfit, Kiba said, grinning at the blonde-haired girl in front of him. Shikamaru stared at the feral boy and sighed. Everyone knew of his crush on the blue-eyed girl, who was always polite to decline his dates. Stay away from Naruto, Minato yelled at the boy. The blue-eyed girl shook her head at her teacher's attitude towards Kiba. For some strange reason, the Yondaime was always protective of her when a boy asked her out on a date. Really, Kiba, at a time like this? Naruto asked in disbelief, raising her eyebrows at him. Why not? Kiba asked in confusion. The blonde shook her head at him but didn't offer an explanation to him. She turned her attention to Sasuke, who seemed to be looking at Kiba in annoyance and was that, jealously she was seeing. She shook her head at that thought, knowing that Sasuke did not like her in that sense. I see, all 9 of this year's rookie Genin are taking the exam, Kiba said, realizing that everyone was gathered here. He had been too distracted by the sight of Naruto's change of outfit. I wonder how far we will get, Sasuke-kun? You seem confident, Kiba, Sasuke said, smirking at the feral boy. Ino and Sakura were glaring at Kiba as the two boys were having their conversation. We did a lot of training, we won't lose to you. Kiba boasted, grinning at the raven-haired teen. Naruto shook her head at the two boys and wondered what was it with boys and their egos. I am sure that you did a lot of training, but I can still kick your ass, Naruto said as she leaned against the wall. I am 100 times stronger than I used to be. Kiba shook his head at her in disbelief. Naruto was many things, but he won't believe that the girl got stronger. She was strong, don't get him wrong, but not once had they ever seen her train hard for anything, and so the idea of her getting stronger was laughable. Right, Kiba said. The day I see you beat my ass is the day hell freezes over. Naruto is stronger than you think. I was the one that told her to do the minimum to pass the Junon exams, Minato said as he tried his best to rein in his temper. It may have been his idea, but he still hated the fact that everyone underestimated his little girl. The blonde-haired girl shook her head at him and scanned the room for any more familiar faces. She smiled when she saw the familiar sight of Lee and his teammates, but then frowned when she saw a ghost sitting beside the Hyuga boy, who seemed to look sad and slightly disappointed. She shook her head and then returned back to scanning the room. Naruto felt her lips curl into a small smile when she saw the familiar sight of Gaara and his teammates as well as his mother's ghost, who seemed to be looking at his teammates in disappointment. She must have been staring at him for a long time because the redhead boy turned his head and looked at her. They stare at each other, both of them daring each other to break away from the staring, but neither of them broke away. As she waited for him to stop staring, Naruto took her time analyzing the boy that she promised to help. He wasn't bad looking if she admitted to herself, she would even go as far as to say that he was cute. Personally, she blamed his teal eyes. He is a cutie, Naruto. I wish that you see my son in that way as well, Mikoto said as she looked at the redhead boy in amusement. The blonde-haired girl eyes widened at the Uchiha matron and softly said, I do not like Gaara, Mikoto. I am thinking of ways to help him. You know, I think those ghosts surrounding him won't leave until he changes his way. Really? Then why have you been staring at him for the past 10 minutes? Mikoto asked in amusement. Minato glared at the Uchiha matron for pointing it out while Fugaku shook his head at his noisy wife's question. I haven't been staring at him for 10 minutes, Naruto said in denial. And why do you care? It isn't like I have feelings for the boy. Barely know the guy. Right, Mikoto said, not looking convinced at the girl's words. The blonde turned her head at the woman and opened her mouth to argue, but stopped when she noticed that the rest of the rookies were now paying attention to an older boy with white hair. She sighed as he told them that this was not a picnic. Honestly, if there was one thing she hates the most, is the way that this nin treated them. I am Kabuto. The white-haired Konoha Junon with glasses and a set of purple clothes said as he nodded his head at them. But instead of that, look behind you. Behind? Sakura asked as she turned her head to look at the genins behind them. The genins behind her looked ready to kill them. The pink-haired girl gulped and unconsciously went to stand beside Naruto. Well, why aren't they friendly? Naruto said sarcastically. Why not have tea parties with them? I am sure that they will love to drink tea with us. Everyone gawked at her for making jokes for something as serious as this. You shouldn't be making jokes at times like these, Pudgy, Ino yelled. Naruto shrugged her shoulders at her fellow blonde and said, I know, but seriously, you expect me to be scared of them? She shook her head and continued. Frankly, you guys got to get used to this, because if these bunch of genins were scary to you, then I hate to know in the future how you react to people deadlier than them. Also, they are as scary as a kitten. Sorry, Naruto-chan, about that. The blonde-haired girl shook her head at the Yondaime for bringing up the reminder that he was the one that sealed the fuzz ball in her stomach. Maybe she should punch the ghost and knock some sense into him. It would make her like a heck lot of simpler. Gaara looked at the blonde-haired girl that seemed to be having a heated argument with her friends and teammates about something. He didn't know why he always stared at her, and he certainly did not know what was it about her that draws his attention to her. She was really strange for a girl her age. For one, she did not seem to be afraid to stand up against him if their first meeting told him. I hope that we can be friends. That sentence had been running through his mind ever since she said those 7 words. Friends, who needs them? He definitely did not need a friend, especially from a girl that did not look like she knew what it is like to suffer. Yet, why did he felt a flutter in his stomach when she said those 3 words? He also did not understand why his heartbeat had speed up when the blonde girl looked at him. Gee Gaara, is something wrong? Temari asked hesitantly, noticing that her younger brother seemed to be out of space. Her brother never behaved that way in his life, and truthfully she was scared of this development. She sighed in relief when the redhead boy shook his head at her. What is wrong with your son? A ghost asked Karura. The sad female ghost looked at her son and then smiled in amusement, realizing what was happening to her youngest son. She certainly didn't expect this type of emotion from her son, especially at this speed, but Naruto was a remarkable girl that seemed to be working a miracle. I believe that a change is coming. Karura answered, eyes softening as she looked at Naruto, who was being scolded by her teammate for yelling to the whole room that she would beat them all. That blonde girl over there is going to change the world, that much all the ghosts were certain. Naruto yawned as she sat in the chair that she had been assigned. After the Sound Genon attacked Kabuto, their proctor had shown up and reprimanded them for fighting before the exams. He had also told them to come to the front and turn in their applications so that they could be assigned a seat number for the written part of the Chunin exams. If there was one thing that Naruto was grateful, it was the fact that she could see ghosts. They always could steal information for her, or better yet tell her the answers to the questions. Through normally, she wouldn't ask them to do that, but she was willing to make it an exception for this exam. There are many important rules to this first test. Their protector at the front of the class said as he wrote on the board. I will write it on the board while I explain, but questions will not be allowed, so listen carefully. The first rule is that you guys will all start off with 10 points. The test is made up of 10 questions and each one is worth a point, but this test uses a subtraction system. Basically, if you answer all the questions correctly, you keep your 10 points. But say if you miss 3 questions, you lose 3 points and will have 7. Well, you won't have any problems, Minato said, standing beside Ibiki. The Yondaime seemed to be looking at her in amusement and Naruto grinned, knowing that she will have it in the bag. The second rule, this is a team test. Whether you pass or not will be determined by the combined score of your teammates, Ibiki said, drawing Naruto's attention back to him. So each team will compete to see how many points they can hold on to form the initial team total of 30. Wait a second, Sakura yelled, interrupting Ibiki from continuing the rules of the exam. I don't understand this initial point system either, but why is it a team test? Naruto shook her head at her teammate and sighed in disappointment. Her teammate did not know what a chunin means or the duties of chunins. Well, it isn't a surprise seeing as the pink-haired girl spends most of the time stalking Sasuke. The third rule is that during the exam, anyone caught by the testing officers doing sneaky activities, namely cheating. Naruto grinned, as she understood that he was giving them permission to cheat. We'll have 2 points subtracted for every offense. That means we have only to be caught 5 times before we are eliminated, thought Naruto, leaning back by her seat as she thought about what he had just told them. We will have our eyes on you guys, the chunin in the sides informed them. Realize that the pathetic ones that get caught cheating will be destroying themselves, Ibiki continued, giving them a dark look. As shinobis trying to achieve the level of chunin, be proud ninjas. But having a lot of pride would get us killed. Naruto thought silently as she remembered the day when she saw Mikoto and Fugaku's ghosts appear in front of her. The Uchiha matron was arguing with her husband about the fact that it was his fault that they died because he had too much pride. Till this day, Naruto did not understand what she meant by that. How was it his fault that Itachi killed them? She would ask them, but she feared that the two of them would argue again. God knows how long the two will argue about it, most likely months. And the final rule, Ibiki said, snapping Naruto from her train of thought. Those that lose all their initial points during the test and those that don't answer any questions correctly. He paused and all the genins were scared to know what will happen and they weren't disappointed. Will be failed along with their 2 teammates. Naruto bowed her head down at this piece of information, trying her best not to glare at her teammates. She could practically feel their need to kill her if she didn't answer any of the questions correctly. Did they really think that badly about her? She really didn't want to answer that question. The exam will last 1 hour. Okay, Ibiki said. He scanned the room to look at their faces and nodded at their petrified expressions. Begin, he yelled. Naruto immediately turned over her test and began to read through the questions. Questions 1, 7 to 9 were beyond her level, the other half were questions she definitely knew the answer to, seeing as the Yondaime will question her with scenarios. Do you need my help? Or can you answer these questions without any problems? Minato asked her. Naruto quickly wrote down on her paper the answer to his question. His eyes widened in surprise when he saw that she said that she needed his help for the questions. She never really asked for help from him for these exams. So what questions would you need me to get the answers for you? Through I doubt that I will be able to get it fast. Minato asked. The blonde sighed and quietly pointed at the questions that she definitely knew that she couldn't figure out. Question 1 is decoding. That isn't something I have taught, Minato said, frowning at her question. The blonde bowed her head and he sighed at her. With one last look at his daughter, he went and searched the classroom for the answers that Naruto needed. Sighing, Naruto set her head on the desk, waiting for Minato to bring her the answer for the first question. It had taken 15 minutes for Naruto to get the answer for the first question before she continued on with the questions. She quickly answered questions 2 to 6 but was hesitant with her answer for question 6. She glanced at the Yondaime and silently gestured for him to check for the answers for the other questions. Naruto was impressed with the methods that some of the genins were using to complete this exam. Although she found it slightly unfair that Sasuke and Hinata were using their Kekkei Genkai, but then again she was using ghosts to help her complete the exam. Of all the ones that she had noticed, she had been more impressed by Gaara's solution. The third eye was truly impressive if she dare say so herself and was really hard to notice. In fact, she would haven't noticed it if it weren't for the sand being rubbed out by the person sitting next to her. Well, I got the answers for the rest of the questions, Naruto-chan, Minato said, taking a seat on the floor. He looked very tired from all the floating and Naruto couldn't help but wonder if being a ghost was harder than it looked. The blonde nodded and listened as he told her the answers to the questions. With all the questions now answered, all Naruto needed to do now was to wait for the final question. Fortunately for her, she did not have to wait long. Ibiki stared at the genins in front of him and thought about this bunch of genins and the ones that stand out to him. The Suna boy definitely stands out for being very calm during the course of the first exam. The technique that he was using was also very good. Naruto Uzumaki, the village's pariah, was doing better than anyone would expect of her. He had expected the girl to panic the very least with the questions, but instead she was also very calm, but he did not know the method that she was gathering intelligence. The girl was intelligent, and if Kakashi was saying is right, then this girl was also some kind of genius. He could see the reason why he would say such a thing. The girl was truly different from the rest of her peers in Konoha. He had watched all the genins as they entered the classroom and had seen their behavior. Naruto seemed to be daydreaming at times, but with closer inspection he had seen that the girl was simply having millions of thoughts running through her head. The remarks that she made about her teammate were very spot on. Looking at the clock, Ibiki saw that it was time for him to ask the 10th and final question to the genins. It was going to be fun if he dare say so himself, but not so much for them. Okay, and now we will begin the 10th question, Ibiki said. Now, before we get to it, I would like to go over added rules for this questions. He almost smiled at the shocked looks on the genins' faces. Surprisingly and sadly, Naruto and the Suna boy were not shocked. The redhead still had that stoic look, while the blonde simply seemed bored to his amusement. These are the rules of desperation, Ibiki continued after the genins drank in the new piece of information. First, for the 10th question, you must decide whether to take it or not. What happens if we choose not to? A Suna girl asked immediately. If you choose not to, your points will be reduced to 0, you fail. Along with your teammates, Ibiki said. The looks on their faces just made his day, but the thoughtful look on Naruto's face told him that she was thinking of something. May I ask what happens if we choose to answer the question? I mean, why won't we take the other option? Unless. Naruto trailed off and Ibiki wondered if the girl figure out what he plans to do to them. Well, because of the other rule, Ibiki said, informing them. If you choose to take it and answer incorrectly, that person will lose the right to take the Chunin exam again. They all looked at him in shock, and to his amusement, some of them looked at him with anger. Those genins' attempt for killer intent was pathetic, but they are the lowest of the low in terms of rank. What kind of rule is that? The Inuzuka yelled. There are guys here who have taken the exam before. Ibiki gave them a dark look and said, you guys were unlucky. This year it is my rules. He then continued. But I am giving you a way out. Those that aren't confident can choose not to take it, and try again next year. Those that do not wish to take it, raise your hand. Once your number is confirmed, leave, Ibiki said. He watched for the next several minutes as examinees quit, one after another. To his surprise, he saw that the Hyuga heiress was raising her hands even though it was hesitant. He did not expect that to happen, and he definitely did not expect what was about to happen next. I don't know about the other genins, but I know for certain that I am not going to give up. In fact, I believe that you got to try harder to make me give up from taking these exams, Naruto said as she slapped the top of the desk with her hand. You may be good at your job, but I never give up. That is my Nindo way. Ibiki frowned at her words and looked around the room. To his surprise, all the genins in the room was filled with determination at her words. I heard you want to be the strongest kunoichi in the elemental countries. How are you going to achieve that if you can never become Chunin? Naruto chuckled and answered, Chunin is just a rank. I can still be a Genin 10 years from now and be stronger than all the Jounins in this village. I will be strongest kunoichi that this world has ever seen, even if I was still a Genin. The scarred man looked around and saw that all the competitors were still determined. He sighed and realized that there was no point for him to drag it any longer. Good decisions. Now to everyone still remaining. I congratulate you on passing the first test, Ibiki said. The blonde-haired girl in front of him smirked, and Ibiki realized that the girl had known along what had been happening to them. Smart kid, and she was also apparently very sly of what her actions had just proven. What do you mean? The pink-haired girl asked, looking at him in shock. We already pass? What about the 10th question? He opened his mouth to answer the question, but it was Naruto that beat him to the punch. There was never a 10th question. Naruto explained, and then the blonde frowned before adding thoughtfully. Well, I guess the two choices would be considered the 10th question if you think about it. In a way he did word it as a question. What were the first 9 questions for then? A blonde San Kunoichi asked. Were they pointless? She did not look very happy at the prospect of pointlessly taking an exam. No, they were not pointless. They served their intended purpose, Ibiki said, waving his hands at them. To test your individual information gathering ability, that purpose. Information gathering? The blonde kunoichi repeated. First, as the rules explained, success on this test based on the whole team doing well. This put pressure on each member not to mess things up for their teammates, Ibiki said. But the questions on this test were not the types a mere Genin could answer. Because of that, I am sure most of the people came to the same conclusion. That to score points, I will have to cheat. All the Genins started to whisper at this, and after a couple of minutes Ibiki continued on with his explanation. Basically, the premise of this test is to cheat. As cheating targets, we had 2 or so Chunins who knew all the answers mixed into the crowd, to help you guys out. It was for that reason I figure out what he was planning to do. Naruto muttered under her breath. Ibiki frowned at this revelation and wondered how the girl knew which one of them were Chunins. Ibiki shook his head and continued. But those that cheat poorly, fail of course, he said as he removed his bandana. Because, at times, information is more important than life, and on missions and the battlefield, people risk their lives to get their hands on it. All the Genins looked at him in horror when they saw the burns, screw holes and scars that covered his head. The girls especially seemed to be looking at it with horror and nausea. If the enemy or third party notices you, then there is no guarantee the info will be accurate. I want you to remember this. Important information in your hands can be a powerful weapon for your comrades and for the village, Ibiki said. So we had you gather information through cheating. This clearly separated those that didn't have the right abilities. But I still don't understand the final question. The Suna Kunoichi said. But the 10th question is the true purpose of the test, Ibiki said with a smile. What do you mean? Sakura asked in confusion. Let me explain. The 10th question, the take it or not take it decision. Obviously these were painful choices. Those who choose the latter option fail along with their teammates. Those who choose to take it could lose the chance to take the test again, a true leap of faith. Now about these 2 choices, say you guys become Chunins, Ibiki said, giving them a scenario. Your mission is to steal a secret document. The amount of ninjas, their abilities and etc. is unknown to you. And of course there could be traps set all around you. Now do you accept, or not accept? Because you don't want to die, because you don't want your comrades hurt, can you avoid this dangerous mission? The answer is no. Naruto smiled at the man's words and looked at her sensei. Minato smiled at her and told her to return her attention back to Ibiki's long speech. She sighed and nodded at his request. No matter what the danger, there are missions you can't avoid. The ability to be courageous, and survive any hardship, this is the ability needed to become a Chunin captain, Ibiki continued, and he soon began to become passionate. Those who can't put their destinies on the line, who cling to the uncertain future of theirs always next year, and then walk away from their chance, those pieces of trash who can only make such cowardly choices, they don't have the right to become Chunin. That is how I feel. He is very passionate about this. Naruto thought as the man yelled about this. She had never seen someone as passionate about this as him, if she doesn't include Guy and Lee. Those who opted to answer the difficult 10th question have passed with flying colors, Ibiki remarked with a satisfied smile. You've proven you can endure the challenges ahead. Congratulations on clearing the first stage of the Chunin exams. I wish you the best of luck moving forward. We're definitely going to need that luck, Naruto thought, feeling the weight of exhaustion settle in. She glanced at Minato, who offered her an encouraging smile before turning his gaze toward the window. Although the first test was over, Naruto already wished for the exams to come to an end. That's all for now, my dear YouTube family. I hope you enjoyed the discussion. Thank you for watching. 6 Path Weeb.